Sarah Jane Adventures, Prisoner of the Judoon, the first story of Series 3, is written by Phil Ford and it's starring Elizabeth Sladen, Tommy Knight, Daniel Anthony, Anjali Mohindra and Alexander Armstrong. So this episode published a simplified novelisation by Trevor Baxendale with the title Judoon Afternoon for School Literacy Programmes in September 2010, and this is the first Sarah Jane Adventures episode that has a brief prologue in which Clyde tells us the characters and the series. They used that footage for the cinema trailer for the season, which I think it's great for those who hasn't seen Sarah Jane Adventures and introduces them to that programme. This teaser includes brief scenes from the different stories of the season. So the story begins with Sarah Jane telling us what she does and enjoying her life. She interviews Mr. York about the nanoforms. Because Sarah Jane asks the wrong question, she gets thrown out, and she drove back home. The whole gang sees a meteor, so they look at Mr. Smith, which turns out to be a Judoon crash landing. Like I said in my Doctor Who Smith and Jones retrospective, I love the Judoon, they are really cool. Because Judoon are the police and their actions are brutal, the gang are going after him. After Sarah Jane gave Geeta a leaflet for the plants, the gang has found a Judoon shooting about and there was an alien escaping, which means a prisoner has escaped. While Captain Tybo, which is the name of that Judoon by the way, is scanning around, he gets knocked out by Androvax, which is brutal. Androvax the Annihilator is a veal species who has the ability to control people's body by stepping in one. I thought he's pretty cool. He's also the last of his species outside of suspended animation, so the gang helps Captain Tybo and plan to help him recapture Androvax without harming innocent people. So after they heard little girl scream, Sarah Jane and Clyde ran off, as the girl claimed that the alien has took her mum, and because Luke and Rani were slowing Tybo down, he confiscated their phones and smashed both of them, which is uncalled for. As Sarah Jane tries to comfort the little girl, there was a beep on her scanner which it was Androvax who's possessing the little girl.
Sarah Jane! Stay where you are.
So Androvax stepped out the little girl, put Clyde to sleep, and went inside Sarah Jane and possessed. My god, that's pretty scary, the way the tongue sticks out like a snake. After she went away, Luke, Rani and Tybo arrived in the church hall. I thought it was pretty funny when Tybo squirted water at Clyde to wake him up.
Where's Mum?
Method ineffective.
What? Get off!
So meanwhile, possessed Sarah Jane sets Mr. Smith on self-destruct. I thought it was amazing when Tybo took the police car from the policeman and drove it. Be fair, Judoon are police. The bit where Tybo tells a bloke to turn the music down and Ronnie waved at him is pretty funny. And when he phoned his mum.
Turn down. Have a nice day.
Ma'am?
I wonder what he'd say. A humanoid rhino driving a police car with 3 human teenagers. So they arrived at Sarah Jane's house and into the attic and realising that Mr. Smith is about to explode, which leads to cliffhanger.
Explode in 60 seconds. The explosion will destroy all of Diamond Road. You must run, now.
So Luke talks Mr. Smith to deactivate self-destruction, which is nicely done. And oh yeah, because Geeta decides to take Harash and dumps plants in the building, they get taken by a security guard. So Sarah Jane sees Mr. York and gets the nanoforms to build a spaceship, so Androvax can escape.
Then what better way to cover my tracks than to destroy?
And it was funny when Geeta told Harash that he's more of a Jamie Oliver than James Bond. And I thought the way they handled meeting Judoon troopers intense and amusing at the same time.
And I demand to know what you're doing here.
Ish, perhaps we should just let them get on.
Tybo getting Luke, Rani and Clyde to obey the rules, like pay for parking and not going into an unauthorised room. So they tricks Tybo to lock him up in the room, which isn't gonna end well when he gets out. So while Luke meets possessed Sarah Jane, Rani and Clyde were getting chased by nanoforms, but managed to stop them with a fire extinguisher.
Let my mum go.
And give her a chance to save Earth. You think I care? You took it to the wrong species.
So at the spaceship, while nanoforms are consuming the entire building, the gang gets Sarah Jane to fight the Androvax and released her. And after the Judoon troopers let Tybo out, they managed to capture Androvax, Luke manages to stop all the nanoforms. Androvax tells Sarah Jane that someone will destroy her, which is not something I want to think about. So Judoon took Androvax away, and pretty amusing when Tybo told Harish and Geeta that there's nothing to see. And also they grounded Luke, Ronnie and Clyde on Earth. They're so police. While Mr. York sees a spaceship flying away, the whole gang has arrived back home, and Geeta came up and told them that she saw aliens. Judoon, obviously. So, that's Prisoner of the Judoon, and I really love this episode. What do you guys think? Both part 1 and 2. Drop your thoughts on the comments down below. The Sarah Jane Adventures, The Mad Woman in the Attic, the second story of Series 3, is written by Joseph Lidster and it's starring Elizabeth Sladen, Tommy Knight, Daniel Anthony, Anjali Mohindra, Alexander Armstrong, and John Leeson. Yeah, K9 makes a return for real. Yes! So the story starts off Ealing, London, 2059. I would be 60 to 61 then. A bloke called Adam Lloyd went in Sarah Jane's house and in the attic and sees an old Rani Chandra who's absolutely depressed and tells Adam how it happened. This is spooky. So in the present day, Rani sees a report of a strange light and went to the rest of the gang who's been talking to Maria. But sadly they're like, just lightning, it's nothing, you're overreacting. So Rani got upset about it, so she meets up with Sam. Not me, unfortunately. She has a friend, Samuel Lloyd, who was an orphan living in St. Anthony's Children's Home in Danemouth after his parents died at a car crash in 2001. And because Rani moved away to Bannerman Road, Sam lost contacts with her. I think Toby Parks did a great job. So while Rani and Sam walked to closed up fun fair, Sam decided to walk off, but Rani climbed over the fence and it's kinda intense where there's a group of people just walking past Rani and went on the rides. And they have red eyes, like a demon. A caretaker went to see Rani and took her in his office because she told him that she has a twisted ankle. And yeah, that's Brian Miller, Elizabeth Sladen's real life husband. Amazing. When I first watched that story, I was like, this guy looks familiar. So Sarah Jane, Clyde and Luke found out that Rani told Sam and she's missing, thinking she's doing something stupid, so they head off. They went off to see Sam, who told them where Rani is, and he understandably felt pretty upset about his parents died in a car crash, which is what happened to Sarah Jane's parents. So Clyde decided to call Sarah Jane old, which is not very nice, there's nothing wrong with her looks. I thought the effects of red face in the mirror is really cool.
Playtime is beginning.
So Rani walks down underground and she meets Eve, who has the power of psychic abilities and time alteration. I like Eve as a character, I think she's a likeable alien, and Eleanor Tomlinson nailed the role. Apparently Eve's species were wiped out by the Daleks during the last Great Time War, same thing happened to the Time Lords, leaving the Doctor the last of them, plus the Master as well. She was lonely and wanted friends, which is understandable. Rani is still angry with Sarah Jane and her gang, so they looked in the mirror to see the future. Sarah Jane sees the Doctor landing his TARDIS in the attic, which is cool. I love the opening of part 2 where they use footages from the classic series. Rani felt pretty upset seeing her future self alone.
I can't become that! I'm so lost, so alone. The mad old woman at Bannerman Road.
I thought Sue Aid did a fantastic job playing the future Rani. They definitely do feel like the same person. I can definitely buy her regrets for what she did in the past, pushing her friends away. So eventually Rani and Eve bumps into Sarah Jane and Clyde and she doesn't want to have anything to do with them, which is sad. So Sam left and gave Luke the notes saying it's not Eve that wants Rani. So Eve uses her powers to speed the fun fair, which I wouldn't say much fun when you feel woozy and sick. Basically, Eve was only a kid and she didn't know how to use her powers. Definitely want to take her to the X-Men and see Professor X. Wrong universe. The ship needed to reboot because it crash landed. So Sarah Jane and Clyde helped Eve to get to the spaceship so her energy can get drawn away. So after Rani is unpossessed, she and Harry went down to the spaceship and he tells 4 kids to help themselves because why wouldn't you? K9's work on Black Hole is finished, so he finally gets to come home, which is amazing. I love K9. They should bring him back.
Affirmative.
So the spaceship is repaired, Harry and Sam gets to go with Eve, but sadly Ronnie wished Sarah Jane and the gang to disappear, but she actually didn't mean it. She lost her temper, which is really sad. We also find out that Adam, who's talking to an old Ronnie, is Eve and Sam's son. Crazy. So old Ronnie wishes Sarah Jane and her gang not to disappear, so that timeline got changed and left the spaceship. And Sarah Jane was surprisingly okay with Ronnie telling Sam about what the gang does and the aliens. I didn't expect the ending to have Ronnie with her grandkids. I love the music in this story. I thought it's absolutely beautiful, especially the inside of the ship scene.
Fine.
Ship Sarah Jane Smith. It is good to meet you.
Yeah, it is a very sweet piece of soundtrack. I thought Sam Watts did a phenomenal job. So that's the Mad Woman in the Attic, and I really love this one. The effects is beautiful. It's well written and acted. What did you guys think? Drop your thoughts on the comments down below. The Sarah Jane Adventures, The Wedding of Sarah Jane Smith, the third story of Series 3, is written by Gareth Roberts and it's starring Elizabeth Sladen, Tommy Knight, Daniel Anthony, Anjali Mahindra, Alexander Armstrong and John Leeson. So yeah, the novel is the first one to be published in a paperback on the 5th of November 2009, and this is the 9th of the 11 Sarah Jane Adventures story to be adapted as a novel. This is also the Doctor's first appearance on Sarah Jane Adventures, and this was actually filmed after the end of time, so this story makes the final scenes David Tennant has filmed during his time as the Doctor. Originally, Nicholas Courtney was going to reappear as the Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart, having him meeting the 10th Doctor, which I would have loved to see, but sadly Nicholas Courtney was too ill, which is why he got written out. When I found out, I couldn't watch the episode the same way again, and without feeling sad about it. So Sarah Jane just walks out of the house, as apparently she's been doing it many times. So Luke, Ronnie and Clyde asks Mr. Smith to locate Sarah Jane's whereabouts. So they went there to see if there's any trouble, but turns out she's on a date with a bloke called Peter Dalton. So yeah, nothing to worry about. Well, you would think. I think Nigel Havers is great as Peter Dalton. We also get to hear the TARDIS noise. I was mind blown when I first watched it. I never thought the Doctor was going to be in it, and it's just TARDIS passing through. So Luke, Ronnie and Clyde went back to the attic and Sarah Jane returned, discovering that she's been spied on, but she seems happy and was planning to tell them about Peter, inviting him 3 days later to meet Luke. I thought K9 annoying Mr. Smith is pretty entertaining.
Instruction to human children. Conduct recreation in socially compatible mode.
Oh, be quiet.
So while Peter arrived to meet Sarah Jane and Luke, Ronnie and Clyde have got the parcel, and inside was Travis Prolong, the same creature that Sarah Jane chased in the hospital from the episode The Mark of the Berserker. While we get the funny chase scene, Luke, Sarah Jane and Peter went out for a meal. Sarah Jane took the call and advised Ronnie to get Mr. Smith to deal with that, so he teleported Travis Prolong back to its planet Prolongus, along with the dustbin. Apparently it was being sold on eBay. Clyde looks at the computer and sees Peter's house with the for sale signs and papers on the window, like it's been abandoned, and the photo was taken recently, so they went to have a look and seeing that something isn't right. So after Sarah Jane and Peter got engaged, Sarah Jane and Luke returned home, and apparently there was nothing wrong because Peter had a flat that Sarah Jane went in a few times. And yeah, she was given a ring with a red flashing light. Mr. Smith tried to warn them, but Sarah Jane deactivated him. It's also scary after when the lights turned off in the attic and there's a sound of laugh. So at the wedding, which is definitely quick, Clyde was thinking that something isn't right, and Geeta seems to like Peter a bit too much, and Harash seems to be pretty annoyed with her. So Sarah Jane and Ronnie arrived looking amazing, and my heart was beating faster when I first watched this, hearing the sound of the TARDIS making a noise. Clyde obviously hid K9 under the table. Just after the Registrar asks if anyone has got any objections, we get the 10th Doctor bursting in and shouted, "Stop this wedding now!"
Stop this wedding now!
I love that scene. When I first watched it, I just couldn't believe what I'm seeing on screen, as I was really surprised that the Doctor showed up in the Sarah Jane Adventures. While everyone was wondering why the Doctor wanted the wedding to stop, the wind was blowing and Peter said there's an angel and the trickster appeared.
Don't be afraid, Sarah Jane. It's the angel.
Not a good looking angel, I have to admit. He seems to dress for the occasion. Well, he's wearing white this time. So anyway, he teleports himself with Sarah Jane and Peter away. Everyone has disappeared except the Doctor, Ronnie, Clyde, Luke and K9. The Doctor needed the teenagers and K9 to help him rescue Sarah Jane Smith in getting out. Unfortunately, the TARDIS disappeared away and can't come back because they're in a couple of seconds of time loop, and Sarah Jane along with Peter is in a different time. We learned that Peter fell down the stairs and was about to die, but Trickster kinda resurrected him and got him to meet Sarah Jane. And the reason why he wanted them to get married so Sarah Jane can forget the time she saves the world from aliens. With the ring, she gets really happy and she'll stop saving the world. As the TARDIS reappear, the Doctor tries to get teenagers to go back in, but Clyde gets electrocuted, which we'll explore more in Death of the Doctor. He tricks the Trickster, wanting to join his species to get to Sarah Jane with the power of art and energy. As he fell unconscious, Sarah Jane gets Peter to let her go in order to save her son and her friends. So Peter takes his ring off and so Trickster disappears away. Sarah Jane and Peter told each other that they love each other just before Peter disappears, and everyone is back in their places except Peter, who's gone just like that. So Sarah Jane sadly had to cancel the wedding. So in the end, the gang are back in the attic and the Doctor arrived. When they asked if they could look inside, and the Doctor is like,
What, in the TARDIS? My TARDIS? Of course you can, yeah.
was pretty intense. I was like, whoa! But then he's like, yeah, of course you can, why not? Sadly, they're not allowed to go anywhere because, well, Tybo grounded them on Earth. So after they left the TARDIS, Sarah Jane and the Doctor get to say goodbye and telling each other not to forget each other, which is the same exchange from the Hand of Fear, where Sarah Jane leaves the TARDIS for the last time until the 5 Doctors.
Until the next time.
Don't forget me, Sarah Jane.
As the Sarah Jane went out the TARDIS, the Doctor seemed depressed. You can tell David Tennant is really sad that he's leaving the show and saying goodbye to Elizabeth Sladen as he watched her when he was a child. But yeah, they will see each other again, thankfully. So, that's the wedding of Sarah Jane Smith, one of my favourite Sarah Jane Adventures episodes. It's amazing that the Doctor appears in the show. What did you guys think of the wedding of Sarah Jane Smith, part 1 and 2? Drop your thoughts on the comments down below. The Sarah Jane Adventures, The Eternity Trap, the 4th story of Series 3, is written by Phil Ford and it's starring Elizabeth Sladen, Daniel Anthony and Anjali Mahindra. So novel The Haunted House is written by Trevor Baxendale for school literacy programs in September 2010, and Pearson Education published a simplified novelization of this episode. Another thing to mention is Luke Smith isn't in this serial because the actor Tommy Knight is busy with his GCSEs exams, which is why he's unavailable, which is understandable. Also, Mr. Smith, K9, Harish and Geeta Chandra aren't in this story either, so Elizabeth Sladen is the only cast member to appear in all Sarah Jane Adventures episodes. And this is also the first Sarah Jane Adventures episode to set in before Sarah Jane's birth. So in 1665 at Ashton Hill Manor, we explore the story of Lord Marchwood and how he employed Erasmus Darkening, where he thought he made gold out of nothing, but his children Elizabeth and Joseph were spying on Erasmus and they get disappeared for eternity, with Professor Rivers telling the whole story. Again, great to bring back Floella Benjamin as Professor Rivers. So in present day, Sarah Jane, Clyde and Ronnie met up with Professor Rivers and her assistant Toby Silverman while Luke is at home. Professor Rivers tells Sarah Jane, Ronnie and Clyde the story as Toby has lost his screwdriver. Sarah Jane found it under the table, so that's okay. As Sarah Jane, Ronnie and Clyde went up the stairs, they heard a church bell, so they ran back downstairs and there was silence. and Professor Rivers and Toby didn't hear it. Spooky. While Sarah Jane looks at the books, Ronnie and Clyde went to look around in the garden and they heard the sound of the girl screaming, and there was no one there. The way Erasmus Darkening appeared and disappeared is really scary. So the music room where Sarah Jane, Ronnie and Clyde sits with Professor Rivers and Toby, we do get a bit of insidious moments. So Sarah Jane phones Luke, Ronnie and Clyde phones their parents. While the book keeps turning the pages, Professor Rivers gets taken away. So Sarah Jane, Ronnie, Clyde and Toby went to look for her, but nowhere to be found. Just the sound of her voice on the walkie-talkie. This is so scary. This is so scary, the way toys are playing music and writing on chalkboard saying "get out." Reminds me of Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, where Scooby and Shaggy are in the kitchen eating chilies and there's a ghost writing "get out" on the kitchen wall.
Like ghost writing! See? This place is haunted!
And it's still terrifying. As the gang split up, Sarah Jane meets Elizabeth and Joseph, and we'd be thinking that it could be the twins from The Shining. The kids warned Sarah Jane to get away and they wanted their father. It's also scary when there's red lights coming towards Sarah Jane outside, but luckily she's saved by Lord Marchwood's ghost. And Callum Blue is great in this. Meanwhile, Clyde and Ronnie found a secret passage and into the dark room. And it's funny when Clyde gets covered in spider webs and Ronnie called him Spider-Man. And Clyde made a good point. The scene does look like it was directed by Tim Burton, which is cool. As they looked at the computer, they saw Erasmus Darkening, who's arrived.
You shall stay.
Oh my god, it's pretty scary. The music in this episode by Sam Watts is fantastic. It gives me the goosebumps. I like Adam Gillen as Toby Silverman. I thought he did a great job. Donald Sumter as Erasmus Darkening did so well, because the character is so dark and terrifying, and I think Donald did a fantastic job, and I'm sure he's a nice guy in real life. Erasmus Darkening is an alien scientist who would take others' lives through his experiments, who sought and would later find immortality. So in part 2, Erasmus Darkening tries to stop Ronnie and Clyde to leave, but luckily Lord Marchwood saved them, and the kids led Ronnie and Clyde out of the secret passage. So in the study room, Sarah Jane walks in, and it is scary the way the door closes itself. While she hears Professor Rivers calling for help over again and letting her know that he is coming for her, Clyde and Ronnie arrived and told her about the secret passage. Sarah Jane doesn't think that they're ghosts, so she went to see Lord Marchwood, and they found a lot of people who have disappeared standing on the stairs, which is pretty scary.
It's all the people who've disappeared in the house.
Professor Rivers hasn't been absorbed yet, so Darkening made the people disappeared. So after Darkening does his scary talk, he disappeared and Sarah Jane is thinking that he's playing with them. While Ronnie and Clyde are chased by something in the pool table playing itself, Sarah Jane and Toby finds Transdimensional Accelerator, the power to go through one dimension into another, and it's also portal through time and space. So Erasmus confronts Sarah Jane and Toby as she figured out that the machine is giving Erasmus and all the people that disappeared eternal life. And the creature that attacked her earlier came through that machine. After Lord Marchwood rescues Clyde and Ronnie, they all reunited, and we get a cool scene where the portal effect surrounding Erasmus and he disappeared. And the machine is destroyed by Sarah Jane with her sonic lipstick. And yes, Professor Rivers returns. So while Professor Rivers gave up as it's alien, not paranormal, Ronnie, Clyde and Sarah Jane say that there's no such thing as ghosts, even though Lord Marchwood and his kids peeking through the window. So that's the Eternity Trap, and this is a scary story and it's another great one. What did you guys think of the Eternity Trap? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop your thoughts on the comments down below. The Sarah Jane Adventures Mona Lisa's Revenge, the fifth story of Series 3, is written by Phil Ford and it's starring Elizabeth Sladen, Tommy Knight, Daniel Anthony, Julia Mahindra, Alexander Armstrong and John Leeson. So, a novel based off this story called Painting Peril for School Literacy, programmed since September 2010 by Trevor Baxendale, Pearson Education published to simplify this novel, so the concept of living creatures in drawings or artworks was first explored in Fear Her and became relevant and repeated plot device in The Day of the Doctor, which I think it's great to explore more. So the story begins at classroom, and thanks to Clyde's talent of drawing, the whole class can go to International Gallery Museum and see the Mona Lisa painting, with Mr. Harding and Miss Trupp all excited with a scary Mona Lisa laugh. As Luke is back home, Sarah Jane complains the state of Luke's room, and I don't think I want to know what's in that cup. And yeah, Luke accuses Sarah Jane that she wants him to be perfect, plus they never argued until this episode, which I think it's needed because it shows that every family can have ups and downs, but then forgive each other in the end. So the whole class goes to the museum on the next day. Mr. Harding seems to love Mona Lisa too much, just like Miss Trupp with Clyde. I can see why Clyde is the winner, as his sexy painting is hanged up with 3 girls holding a Centauran guns. Not sure if Sarah Jane is going to be too happy about this. Meanwhile, Miss Trupp talks to the painting of Mona Lisa, and I'm not gonna lie, but that is scary when Mona Lisa laughed and talks and then grabs Miss Trupp and switched places with her.
So let's try this for another.
So while Mona Lisa is hiding, the whole class went to see Mona Lisa, but they saw Miss Trupp in the painting, which I have to admit, I did laugh as well, as the whole class did. So Mr. Harding calls the security to report that Mona Lisa has been stolen.
The Mona Lisa has been stolen!
So the whole class gets escorted out, but Luke, Ronnie and Clyde stayed in to see what was going on. While Sarah Jane sees on the news about the stolen Mona Lisa and finds Miss Trupp stuck in the painting, she goes to the museum and finding out that Luke, Ronnie and Clyde were already there. So they discovered one Centauran gun is taken, so Mr. Harding caught them and then Mona Lisa confronts them, played by Saran Jones. I'm not gonna lie, she is terrifying. The way she laughs, moving when she's in the painting, and appearing out of nowhere. She's also amusing at the same time. The way she introduced herself with a clicking like this, I am the Mona Lisa. And Ronnie doing it back at her really crackled me up. As we all know, Mona Lisa is known as La Gioconda. It's one of the most famous paintings done by Leonardo da Vinci, and this human version wanted to release her brother from the painting, where we're thinking this is bad. So Mona Lisa was about to shoot Clyde, Ronnie and Luke, but they ran for it, and they saw all the policemen and the staff trapped in the painting as well. Oh god. So Mr. Harding teams up with Mona Lisa, well kind of, to get her brother. Sarah Jane is hiding in the display gallery after saying to Miss Trupp that she'll get her out of there. She was found by Mona Lisa telling her not to interfere, and she also mentioned that she heard Luke saying that he doesn't want Sarah Jane's help. So unfortunately, Luke, Clyde and Ronnie see Sarah Jane trapped in the painting, which leads to cliffhanger.
Mom!
So in part 2, Luke, Ronnie and Clyde grabs the painting that Sarah Jane is in. Clyde pushes Mona Lisa over so she released the Dark Rider from the painting, and the chase was pretty intense. I'm not even joking. The sound of the Dark Rider coming and then chasing after Luke, Ronnie and Clyde is really scary and intense. And apparently the Dark Rider was Highwayman in the painting, and it's painted by William Bonneville in 1802. So while Clyde is spying on Mona Lisa and Mr. Harding, the Dark Rider has caught Clyde. So Luke and Ronnie went to the Chinese puzzle box, so Mona Lisa and Mr. Harding arrived and they have to give it to her so she can release her brother. So then they released the drawing of K9 and zapped the abomination to stop it from escaping.
What is that? Where did you come from? Who let that metal mush in here?
Don't mess with my dog, Lisa!
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Mona Lisa can't go outside as she sticks her arm out of the window, is about to turn into stone, so yeah. Mona Lisa and Dark Rider are back in their painting, and to those who are trapped are finally back out of the painting, and everyone reunites. Mr. Harding was about to ask Miss Trupp on a date, but she obviously refuses because of his obsession of Mona Lisa, and she walks off. So the gang is happy. Sarah Jane is proud of Luke, as Luke promised to tidy his room. Sarah Jane is thinking of having a word with Clyde about Centauran guns in his drawing, but she's actually joking, which is a nice moment. So yeah, another Sarah Jane Adventure story I enjoyed. Like I said, Mona Lisa in this one is scary. What did you guys think of Mona Lisa's Revenge? Did she scare you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. The Sarah Jane Adventures The Gift, the sixth story of Series 3, is written by Rupert Light and it's starring Elizabeth Sladen, Tommy Knight, Daniel Anthony, Anjali Mahindra, Alexander Armstrong and John Leeson. Blathereen Dream novel is based off the story by Trevor Baxendale and Pearson. Education published it for school literacy programs in September 2010. So the story starts off with Sarah Jane and her gang chasing a bloke with a bag, good entrance, who apparently is a child Slitheen in disguise. First watching it, I wasn't sure if it was the same one disguised as Carl and Nathan Goss, but apparently not, so two Slitheen are using matter compressor to crush the earth. As K9 blasted a machine, Chris, the child Slitheen, strangles Ronnie and Sarah Jane had to deactivate K9. Sadly, there's nothing the gang can do. Then Blathereen appeared and put a stop to it and teleported both Slitheen to be executed. So they introduced each other and got invited to Ronnie's house for tea as Geeta and Haresh are at head teacher's conference, which is why Ronnie's staying at Sarah Jane's. When I first watched it, I was surprised to see a Slitheen, well, Raxacoricophalapatorians, but they look like Slitheen, just orange. But yeah, I was surprised that they're good guys, but that got me thinking, something's not adding up here, as obviously they're actually bad guys. So Clyde cooks shepherd's pie, and Sarah Jane is right, Clyde has many talents: cooking, drawing, saving the planet, and making jokes. I always loved Clyde, and the rest of the gang obviously, as they're so likeable. So while they're discussing if they could trust the Blathereen, they appeared and had tea with them and talked about the planet Raxacoricophalapatorius, and it was a peaceful planet until Slitheen came about. They gave the gang a plant called rackweed as a present and disappeared off. So Sarah Jane got Mr. Smith to analyse it, and it's harmless. Now apparently there's a test in school the next day, and Clyde obviously isn't looking forward to it, so he sneakily brought K9 to school so he can cheat. Next day, as Luke is looking for his tie and got it from the attic, and the rackweed is mutated and released its spores, and it hits Luke and he feels unwell for the first time because as the Bane created him, he has perfect health.
He has been subjected to an incredibly high dose of rackweed spores.
And Sarah Jane is worried and gave Luke a day off, and Clyde was confused about Luke unwell. So Ronnie finds out that Clyde brought K9 to school. He uses a device to hear his voice to give him the answers, and the teacher seems to be miserable. Sarah Jane realises the rackweed are harmful, and Luke rested on the couch in the attic. Then rackweeds let the other more spores out, and it seems to hit Luke again and Sarah Jane. Oh dear God, looks like Sarah Jane's going to get ill as well. So in part 2 it reveals that Mr. Smith uses his fan in time to get rid of those spores. First watching it and revealing Blathereen are bad as Slitheen, I was like, I knew it! So while the teacher seems like she's not liking her job, she spotted K9 under the table, and the plants at the back of the classroom has mutated into rackweed, letting out spores, and it hit the teacher and she passed out. Apparently if you breathe through it, you get infected. So the kids evacuated, Ronnie, Clyde and K9 running around in school stopping those rackweed spores. So Sarah Jane uses Mr. Smith to teleport herself to Blathereen's spaceship that's in Antarctica to put a stop to it. She orders Blathereen to deactivate rackweed, so they did.
We didn't do anything. We're innocent. Honestly, we are.
I don't believe it. Now fix it.
So they requested Sarah Jane to lower a gun, but then snatched it off her and got tied up and reactivate rackweeds. Meanwhile, Luke is almost 100% infected. Ronnie and Clyde figured out that it's the loud noise by the school bell that stops the rackweed spores. We learned that the Blathereen are called Slitheen Blathereen, pretty much part of Slitheen family. So Sarah Jane sneakily got herself free and teleports back to her house. Clyde and Ronnie tells Sarah Jane that the loud noises stops them, so Mr. Smith got a lot of alarm going off and destroying all rackweeds. Luke is feeling better, so does the teacher and everyone that's been infected. As Ronnie and Clyde came back, Sarah Jane finds out Clyde took K9 to school to cheat, and she says to Clyde that to trust your abilities. But then the Blathereen appeared and about to kill Sarah Jane and her gang.
Let the hunt begin!
So Mr. Smith made a noise and their stomach is moving and exploded, and everyone and everything inside the attic are covered in their guts, which is gross. Apparently they were eating rackweed and it reacted to alarm, so Clyde gets ordered to clean the attic up as punishment for cheating on his test. That must be so hard cleaning the attic up in that mess. I don't mean in that universe, I meant behind the scenes. The crew must have had a hard time cleaning all that up. So in the end, Clyde joins the rest of the gang for outdoor picnic, and Sarah Jane mentions that one day aliens out there would love to help humans. Who knows?
There are friends out there too. Friends who really will want to help us.
So yeah, another Sarah Jane Adventures episode that I enjoyed. It's great to explore more of Raxacoricophalopatorians. I hope they do that in future Doctor Who. What did you guys think of both parts story? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.